Let me introduce David Strait from Austin Law. David is our general counsel. David is going to moderate a panel for us. We've taken our four pillars of investors, our banking community. Mark Dunn's going to represent the banking community, the lending community. Dan Garvey, manufacturing, if you would come up. Dan's going to lead us on the manufacturing side, and then our other two pillars, which would be Watertown Municipal Utility and the city of. So Alan, please come up and join the panel along with, and I think everybody has a microphone.
Okay, good evening. Historically, at this meeting, we've had somebody stand up here and spew a bunch of information and just sort of talk. But a lot of the information that's typically just talked about is in your annual report. So we're going to try something different. Is this mic working? Okay.
Yep.
So we want to get to the heart of what you're really thinking, what you want to know. So to do that, we've got this group of four really intelligent people up here. Ready to answer your questions. We've got Alan Steger from the city, Mark Dunn, First Premier, Steve Lehner from Utilities, and Dan Garvey from Terex. So Chris is going to be running around with the microphone. If you have questions, grab him. I have a list of questions. Some are legit, some are from their spouses. So if we don't have questions from you guys, I go to my list. So anyway, you guys ready? First, raise your hand. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth? Okay, too far. All right. Anybody want to ask a question first, or you want me to just go? Okay, guys, can you highlight any successful initiatives or projects from the past year that have positively impacted our local economy?
I'll take a stab at that one. Some of these are completed projects. Some of them are under construction. Some of them are expansions. Obviously, the ice arena, we all know the local impact that that's had on our community since that was built. We have the new jail project is underway. Ways to go on that project. The new city hall renovation is completed now, a very nice facility. There have been business expansions at Crenlow, Dakota Automation, Century, which is a completed project. South 40 Specialties is a new startup company that's out in Pheasant Ridge. Worth Electronics is doing an expansion. Those are just some examples of some of the projects I see out there.
Okay.
What Steve mentioned are the big ones, the big name ones that everyone would recognize. The real work of what Watertown Development does is help those entrepreneurs get going. It puts them in contact with all the resources that they need. They may not be big flashy names, but they may be the next big person down the street. So, they don't grab the headlines, but, things the organization's doing in the background is getting these startups going.
I would add a really big one that's tough for the public to see, but it's our wastewater treatment plant. We're about 40% of the way through a $60 million expansion of the plant to increase capacity and also modernize the plant. And that's the type of infrastructure that really forms the foundation for future growth in the community well into the future.
The only thing I would have to add on that too, just piggybacking on what Mark said, is some of the smaller things when you think about workforce development that WDC participates in and helping people come to town and supporting them with some subsidy for housing and things like that, that can be important in driving economic growth as well.
Yeah, I have one more quick comment. We've all seen the Hubbard Milling building being torn down. A lot of people wondering what that's about and what's going to go there. That is a project of Missouri River Energy Services. That's our supplemental supplier of energy, electricity to our community. I sit on that board as well, but the current plant that's there that now you can see that Hubbard Milling is gone. Everybody's like, what is that big blue building? And how long has it been there? But that's been in service for over 60 years. It's an old plant run on fuel oil. it is getting towards the end of its life. So Missouri River purchased the Hubbard Milling Building and purchased some property to the north of the new, or the old power plant. And right now they're tearing down the Hubbard Milling, and it's going to turn into green space for some time until there's a catastrophic event at the old power plant, or until it's time to replace it. And then there'll be a new power plant that'll go just to the north of that. Same basic size, new construction, new technology. That'll be about a $500 million project when it's all said and done. So that'll pump a lot of dollars into the local.
Question out here? Okay. What are the biggest challenges currently facing our community in terms of economic development?
I'll start with that one too. I'm going to say land, shovel-ready sites. You see some of the industrial parks that we have on the maps on the other side of the room, but we're running out of land. And in order to create that next industrial development, industrial park, we need to expand and get some other land going. You know, obviously, housing and childcare is something that all the communities are dealing with right now. But I would say one of our biggest hurdles right now is to try to get that new industrial park going.
I think you could actually refer to Jared's presentation there. We got an uncertain economy that's going on. At least on the banking sector, what I've witnessed, I guess I'm not surprised by a lot of the data Jared just went through, but it's the uncertain times of the economy and whether business owners, it's the right time to expand. So,
I think for me, being in the manufacturing sector right now, Jared hit this as well at the beginning, but we're benefiting in the utility industry right now from some of the tailwinds around AI and data centers that are being created and the need for infrastructure build. And so we've got a lot of robust demand there. And so we're trying to grow at Terex really fast. And so for us, workforce is definitely one of the biggest challenges right now. And then you start to boil that down and you get into some of the housing and daycare issues that Steve alluded to.
I would add on the housing and to some extent the daycare. It's tough to grow an economy if we're making investments in housing for working age people after the demand is here, because that demand will go someplace else. And so getting ahead of that growth and looking forward into the community for the next 10 to 30 years is how we'll be successful. Because Dan mentioned the tailwinds that they have. They can't expand here. They've had to go elsewhere. Because 10 years ago, we didn't make the investments in housing for working-aged people. And so now we're on the cusp of really launching some housing initiatives that have some real measurements behind them to grow another 3,000 housing units by 2035.
So maybe,
I've got a,
sure, go ahead, Milt.
I was just wondering if a data center is in our future, and do we have the capacity if it is?
No. Short answer, no. I think we've had a lot of inquiries about data centers, and most of them are 200 megawatts, 300 megawatts, 400 megawatts. We just don't have that kind of capacity on the electric grid. Watertown is 80 megawatts peak with the entire community, so you put that in perspective. We can handle some smaller data centers, you know, if we had a 10 megawatt or, we just haven't had much request for that kind of size of data center. Most of them are huge. There was even one that was 1,000 megawatts. So, you know, even our electric supplier would have a hard time in providing that kind of power. They're proposing one down in Toronto. That one's going to be 450 megawatts, and those are on outer tail lines. Not necessarily coming off a municipal electric system. That would be problematic for any municipal electric to serve that kind of load.
Steve mentioned land. Maybe Alan or Steve, you want to talk about the Calvin Park partnership we have between utilities in the city and the development company in the county?
Yeah, I'll comment first, Steve, and then turn it over to you. So Kelvin Park, I think everyone is familiar with where it is. It's on the southern bypass. Currently, that park does not have service by wastewater. And so we've launched a project over the course of the next year plus. We will be placing a lift station and running a new wastewater line up to the treatment plant. That investment will service not only what we call Kelvin Park today, but almost 300 acres on the other side of the highway bypass. That will allow us to bring that property in for future economic development too. And that was really a partnership between the Watertown Development Company, the Watertown Municipal Utility, Cottington County, and the City of Watertown. And I think that's one of the first collaborative projects of that scale across 4 entities that we've been able to accomplish in quite some time.
Just a couple of comments on that. We did get an EDA grant for the lion's share of that project. We had to come up with a 20% match. That's where Alan was talking about the 25% from those 4 entities, picking up that local match. So there's been a lot of work to try to get Kelvin Park going on the development side. We do have some businesses that are ready to move in and start building if they can get sewer. So the next step is to get that lift station in and get the sewer running so we can get some expansion in that park.
And let's keep in mind that Calvin started 4 years ago. So when we talk about net absorption on industrial property and looking at new property from the time that we all convene in this meeting and decide we need another 200 acres to satisfy the next 20 years, it will take you 5 years to have that 200 acres or some portion of it ready, if it's done right. And I think that's an important ingredient, that you don't just dream it and it happens.
Okay, another question. Kind of touched on this already, but how are we addressing workforce development and ensuring that our labor force is prepared for future job demands?
Short answer, probably LATC and the programs that they have coming up. We've been a long partner with LATC over the years. They're involved with all aspects of our development and growth, and I would say that's probably the major one.
Yeah, I agreed. We really lean on that institution. They are forward-facing business, that they're constantly checking in with industry, seeing what they need. So to stay in touch, we really lean on Tiffany and her crew over there to help us.
Do you have a question, Glenn? Okay.
Yes, I do. More of a comment than a question. I watch sales tax revenue pretty closely, both locally as far as the state. And I got to commend Watertown for just knocking the socks off what the state has been doing throughout the course of 2025. Now, I'm not saying that that's all because of the efforts being put forth by Watertown, and you acknowledge that we do have issues and things we have to contend with. But my real concern is what is happening at the state level. We are just flat as far as our economic development, and we've got to turn that around, because you're bucking the trend, and it's going to not be good for the state if we can't pick the state up.
I'm glad that was a comment instead of a question. Thank you, Glenn, for that. And David, you don't have to read all of the questions.
Well, a lot of these are all meshed together already. We're kind of jumping all over.
I'd maybe make a comment to follow on Glenn's comment. We talk a lot about retail sales tax in the community, and things have been going great, both on our BBB tax, which is driven on the hospitality, as well as the general sales tax. But there's another piece of sales tax collections that's also important, and it's the sales and use tax that many of our manufacturers and wholesalers are self-assessing on the supplies that they purchase into their businesses. And so as our tax receipts go up, it's not just the retail, it's the very strong industrial economy that we've got in the community today as well.
Okay.
And David, before we get off the topic on the training side, let me just say that if there's someone in here that's not convinced that LEC is worth the investment, believe me, after 40 years in 7 states doing what I do, attracting business and industry, that's one of the world premier facilities. What we need to do is make sure that we can scale that, and then we can push long-term toward an engineering degree. You need to have engineering tech. That's going to drive your economy the next 20 years.
Okay. All right. How do we plan to engage with local businesses and entrepreneurs to foster growth and innovation?
Well, I think this is a start right here. I've been coming to these meetings for over 2 decades. As we start to get the forum to be more of a dialogue like this, I think that's how we start to get the ideas flowing. You know, we're not going to win by the PowerPoint charts. We're going to win against our competing communities in the Midwest by the ideas that we bring forward and implement. And we only bring that creative energy out as we get into a room and talk not as competitors, but as community members looking for the best ideas to grow the community. That's how we get to 30,000 people in 2035.
I would also say that we need to go back to LATC in the school system to start in that middle school age and start doing mentorships, internships, get students, our children, interested in about what's going on. Incubator space as businesses progress and get closer, and help with capital funding.
As a banker, and I see a lot of bankers in the room, on a daily basis, you guys out there do a lot of teaching, a lot of connecting, not telling them only about programs that are offered as far as funding, but is you guys are the ones building the balance sheets for that entrepreneur, showing them how to run a business. So, I mean, definitely encourage them to reach out to your local banker. Great resource as well. So.
Yeah, I think for us in the manufacturing sector, you know, we try to, we have a lot of innovation in our business, but we also try to keep things local as much as we can. And so we have a lot of support organizations in the Watertown and surrounding area that are definitely a big part of Terex. And so as we innovate, you know, we're working with them to continue to innovate and really drive that together. So there's a lot of local partnership happening on that front as well.
And these guys are up here just giving you the ideas or what WDC is involved in. If you have ideas, thoughts, comments, things you want to say, you know, throw them out. Tiffany, you have something to say?
I do. Let's go back to Alan's comment about dialogue. One of my favorite places to spend is thinking about the future and crafting out what we can be. With this group, we're 1,500 people away from hitting 25,000 in our population. You talked about growth to 30,000, which I love to hear. What do the 4 of you, from the vantage points where you sit, wish that this group would be thinking about and talking about right now?
I hate to keep going first. You know, I back to the housing and childcare. I think we really need to solve those problems as a community. I don't think there's one right answer, but you know, you're not gonna fill up your job openings if we don't have people. If they don't have places to live or take their kids. So I think that should be a lot of conversation that the WDC board has.
Agreed. I mean, those are the top 2 priorities, I feel, as an organization. That and just maintain high quality of life to prevent that brain drain of our graduates leaving town. We have to make a place for them to want to come back to. So.
You know, after we listened to our dismal scientist who did a pretty good job with the charts, it's sometimes tough to think about that, but I think we need to be optimists if we're going to win. And as we engage young people in choosing their careers, we need to support them in doing whatever it is they want to do and what they're passionate about. And as we do that, I think we can grow an economy and a community around them. It's too easy for some of us to look at what we've done and to look at the next generation and think they should do the same thing. I'm proof of that. You can be passionate about something and change your career in midlife. What we need to do is start to embrace an economy where people are looking in our community about what we can do to differentiate ourselves from every other small Midwestern community and stop being the same. I think that's how we grow, and that's how we get that passion and those ideas.
I think the only thing I would add is just having that strategic vision and collectively as a community so that we're all working on the same mission and the same objectives, and that, you know, WDC is not doing something different than what Terex is doing, or, you know, what the city is doing, and making sure that we all have the same exact mission statement that we're marching toward.
Did Bill?
Yeah. The workforce housing, obviously, I've been trying my best to improve on that, but we've got a lot of headwinds fighting us. But I'm one of the, fortunately anymore, it didn't seem like it, but I'm one of the older guys around anymore. And this is the time for things to happen, because if interest rates come down and things get more affordable for people, and now then we want to try to get caught up and get built, it's not going to happen. Problem for me is I've been pretty much doing this on my own, and I got close to $15 to $20 million investment that as we get going on this project. And the cash flow, obviously, is the big problem for me. And I can only build so many houses as fast as they can sell. We can get more done, but I can't sit on them. Because I have the property taxes, I have the interest, and the interest isn't any better. I mean, when I started this project, it was going to be in the 3-4%, and now we're looking at well more, way over that. So I guess the thing would be, this is the time to get things done, because if and when this interest rate goes down a couple of points, it's going to be more viable for people to get into a house. But then we're going to be behind, and we got to get going on that. So I'm just throwing out there, we need to get some help, whether it's unfortunately or whatever. I'm going to be heading up the Affordable Housing Committee side of things, and I got to find, the goal that I've been handed is 1,200 homes. I can't get 1,200 homes done by myself. We got to get more people involved, and to do that, we got to have the market for it. So I think the market's, the stuff is there, but it's going to take, it's going to take the recruiting people to get here. It's going to take help to get into houses. If apartments or rentals are the first step of that, that's fine. But I personally, my passion is that we get young people in a house. We're going to have families. They're going to stay a lot sooner than they're going to be in apartments. So I guess the question is what can we do as a group to help with that investment? And what, I mean, it's going to take bankers. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's going to take, it needs to have some help to get this moving ahead. And for me, I have to do it again. Like I said, it's got to be a cash flow somewhat. I can't have 50 homes out there not sold. I got to have them selling as fast as I can get them done. If they'll sell faster, or if I can move them faster, I'll find people. I'll get them built faster. But we need some help on that, and we need some ideas. There's a lot of work to be done, and I don't think we should be waiting to get it done.
And Bill, if you have thoughts, ideas, pass them to Chris, pass them to these guys up here too. So anybody have a follow-up?
Well, I think there's been a few housing summits that have taken place. That effort to collaborate with all of the community and talk about. I wasn't there at the last one, but I was at the one before that at the Goss, and I think a lot of good ideas come out of that. We just got to start working on those ideas in detail, so we can see that come to fruition.
You know, with housing, it's in some ways a race against time. So Bill and his partners put together the infrastructure and their development and did a TIF. you have to put all that money and infrastructure in up front, and now it's a race against time to fill those lots as quickly as possible so they start generating the tax increment to pay back the infrastructure. And so it's really at a critical phase where that development, we need to be moving forward with filling it with houses as soon as we can.
Follows up with the next question. What strategies are in place to attract new industries or investments to our area?
I'll take this as what Chris and his team have done as far as attracting industries is not necessarily casting a net at the entire ocean. It's a targeted approach, making sure that business would work here in Watertown. So he's spent quite a bit of time and conducted studies on what's the best type of business to enter Watertown, and that's some of the work that Chris is doing in the background. So it's more of a targeted approach on trying to attract different segments to come to Watertown.
Yeah, those of you who have your booklet in front of you, it talks about the 2025 summary. There's a set of target industries that's in the very back. Those came out of the labor force analysis that we did in 2024, so we're letting our data drive us as to what the target should be. But valves, some of the data processing operations on the small scale side of under 10 megs. We've also identified some ag-related, and then with Alan's comment about the expansion of waste treatment, one of the things that's held us back in the food and beverage industry, which is a highly likely target for all of the Dakotas, we're soon approaching the point where we can handle a dairy or a cheese operation or food and beverage operation, so that's still on our target list. But again, you don't want to go out and ready, fire, and then aim. You want to aim first, and I think that's where we've made the investment, is let our workforce drive us in that regard.
I think, too, one of the things I've seen Chris and the team do is, as they're targeting those folks, making sure it is the right fit for Watertown, because we don't want people coming into town that are going to look to pay 12, 13, 14 bucks an hour and aren't going to be successful. So really targeting the ones that have a good chance of making it once they do come here.
One more quick comment. I think the business retention and expansion strategy that we talked about at our strategic planning session has provided a lot of local investment. I think that we've been successful in that arena. And we also have new startups, but helping those companies that are here already succeed, I think has been successful for us as well.
Any final comments on?
Doug has a question.
Doug?
This is a general question for any one of you. What are the obstacles for us to, kind of piggybacking on Bill's comment? Let's say we create a WAHI, a Watertown Area Home Initiative, not unlike what Aberdeen and Mitchell presented to us the other day. What is the obstacle from us dropping 150 to 200 homes in pick a spot in Watertown? Do we have the utilities to the areas? How fast can that get done? Is it power? Is it water? Is it sewer? What are the obstacles to getting into that kind of successful outcome of a housing initiative? And then what's the one question you wish nobody would have asked?
I'll take the first one. I think the obstacle is we don't know how to move quickly. I think as a community, we've got the infrastructure in place, we have the knowledge and the expertise, but we study things too long. I'm not suggesting we go off in a reckless manner, but we've got to move quickly in some of these initiatives. I think we could fill 150 houses between now and next June, but we got to get people together to say go.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with utility infrastructure, so we don't have, shouldn't have any hurdles there. But the collaborative effort in getting things moving, I think, as Alan had mentioned, is important.
No more questions? Anybody want to make a final comment on what's our objectives, goals this next year? If you haven't already said it, okay?
I pass that one to Chris.
I think the first thing we need to do is make sure that this group, this team, stays cohesive and communicates. I'm a fond believer in Alan's strategy that we have to share information, share resources. There's not going to be one organization that's going to achieve all of these. And I believe Watertown's pretty good at identifying what we want in the future. I think it's the implementation that we get tied up into because there's not one organization that can do it. So it takes a collective cross-pollination between the silos of public sector and private sector. And I would say that we have 50 investors, many of which are in this room today. This organization and the size of this community, we should have 150 private sector investors that are putting money in economic development. 25 years ago, you could get a room together at Rotary and put 20 people in there and raise the money and go buy 500 acres and develop Pheasant Ridge or Airport Industrial. Today, you know, it's going to cost us $5 million just to buy the dirt for the next 300 acres, plus 3 to 5 years to get the infrastructure, which is probably $20 million. We have to have the partnership at the federal and state level. We've got another interchange that we need to lobby for. We need to expand our tech ed and our tech training operations to be able to do more things, but then we need to build the housing too. So you've got a variety of issues, but you've got to have the initiative together to everybody work in one goal to pool our resources, because WDC does not have the resources today to take us to where we want to go. And just a reminder, it will take 9 more Terexes in investment in jobs and annual payroll to get us to 50,000 people by 2050, if that is your goal.
No more questions? Okay.
The one not asked, Doug, how long is the bar open? I don't know. That's got to be for staff too.
Let's open one of you to slip up.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody.